it's more exact to say that the boiling point of water depends upon atmospheric pressure, okay? Now, a pot of water sitting on the beach in Rio de Janeiro on a standard atmospheric day will be experiencing a pressure we represent barometrically as 29.92 inches of mercury. To reach a boil, we have to pour enough energy in the form of heat into that pot to overcome that pressure. Now, at sea level, that's 212 degrees Fahrenheit. But what if we were to stack more sky on top of that vessel by placing it at the bottom of a very, very, very deep hole? Ah, here we are, sub-basement 1667. Even if I didn't already know that the bottom of this shaft is 3.7878 miles beneath my kitchen floor, that's 20,000 feet, I would be able to ascertain as much by simply looking at this thermometer, which indicates that this water is boiling at 252 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, a little math tells us that means there's an extra 15 pounds per square inch of pressure being applied to this water. It means that we could cook our chicken down here very, very quickly. Or we could, buy a pressure cooker, which is probably cheaper than digging a 3.7878 mile deep hole. Finally, our stewing hen, which is free of giblets and any, neck stuff, so to speak, goes into the capsule, a 7-quart pressure cooker, along with a tablespoon of kosher salt and enough water to just reach the maximum fill line. Do not add water above the maximum fill line or something may happen. I don't know what, but it probably wouldn't be good. Now, check the gasket on the underside of your lid. Make sure that it is seated and in position, and apply and lock the lid. There. Now, this goes over high heat until the vessel starts to whistle loudly at you. It'll take about 20 minutes. Now, this is a sure sign that we have attained all the pressure we need. We only have to maintain it now, and that means less energy. So turn the heat to low and let the vessel just barely hiss at you for 45 minutes. Then trigger whatever pressure relief valve you have and wait for the locks to release. Then you can crack open the capsule. And obviously our bird has undergone something of a transformation. I'm just going to get him out. Oh, sorry, her. Sometimes they come out in one piece, which is nice. Sometimes they don't. There we go. Just put that in a bowl and allow that to cool. We can't really manipulate it yet. I'm going to get all of the goop out of this broth that I possibly can. So I'm just going to use the same spider, line that with a few pieces or a few folds of cheesecloth, and carefully strain through it. My mother-in-law would say this isn't necessary, but I like my broth clean. If there are any little chicken chunks down at the very bottom of the pot, whatever you do, don't throw them away. That would be wasteful. This is not a wasteful dish. Just add it to the rest of the chicken. It'll taste just as good. While that rests, we will deal with the bird. You have got to pick off every bit of meat that you possibly can and break it down into bite-sized chunks. As you can see, our dumpling dehydration initiative has been a success. They don't look very appealing right now, but with proper rehydration in hot liquid, they will soften and set without falling apart. Now, I use my pizza cutter for this, and I bear down enough to cut through both layers. And I'm going with about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch strips. Don't worry if they break apart. They will, and that's a good thing. Just scoop them up and put them a handful at a time into the hot liquid. Closely monitor your heat, kids. We need convective motion to keep things moving, to knock some starch off the dumplings and into the broth where it can swell and thicken. If the liquid's too cool, that won't happen, and the soup will be thin. Boil too hard, however, and these slicks will simply be blown to smithereens. Set your clock for 10 minutes, and every now and then just kind of push the dumplings down into the hot broth. No stirring, just gentle pushing. Then load up a handful of chicken into a bowl and prepare to dine. Now, some people like a whole lot of dumpling and not a lot of broth. Me, I'm kind of a 50-50 kind of guy, I guess. Just a couple of ladles. And then my only adornment is black pepper and a lot of it, at least 3 or 4 big grinds. There. You know, I actually think my mother-in-law would be proud of me. Hey, that's nice. Oh, hi, Mom. Look, I don't think we're going to have time to make yours in this show. Hey, ow, ow. I mean, we're running out of time. Hey, you know, for a show about comfort food, I'm not very comfortable. Thanks to the magic of television, not only do I have my pot of chicken and dumplings, I have another identical pot of broth standing by for just this sort of disaster. Now, fluffy northern drop-style dumplings, a.k.a. swimmers, good. Don't require very much time at all because there's no drying phase involved, and a typical procedure would look like this. We're going to boil the butter and the H2O together, that is the chicken broth, add flour, beat until the mixture is cool, and then work in eggs. Remind you of anything? If you answered pot of choux or choux paste, give yourself a nice big hug, because that is exactly what my mama's dumplings really are, which means that they are as French as Chanel No. 5. Only they taste good. We begin by moving 1/2 cup of the very hot broth over to another vessel. Now, in this case, I'm going to use a 2-quart saucier. I'm going to put that to high heat and add 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, along with 1/2 teaspoon of salt, kosher salt, of course. Now, when it comes to a boil, dump in 2 3/4 ounces of all-purpose flour, all of a sudden like. By using hot liquid, we're forcing the starch in the flour to rapidly hydrate to the point of gelatinization. That is, when the long starch molecules unfurl. This means the dough is essentially saturated, okay? It's drunk in most of the moisture that it can take, and it will therefore maintain its bready demeanor even when it hits the hot liquid later. So we'll move our dough ball off and hit it with the hand mixer on low. Believe me, this is a place you want to use a power tool. It's going to look kind of like big couscous. That's okay. Add the first of 2 eggs and work it in as much as you can. It should completely disappear. The mixture will still look pretty gnarly, though. And then add the second egg a few minutes later and work until you've got a smooth and very sticky batter like that. It's kind of like really sticky mashed potatoes. And we're going to move that into a zip-top bag. Bigger is better in this case because this stuff is sticky and difficult to work with. Get every little bit. There. Now work out as much air as possible and then snip off the end with your shears. I'm going with about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch opening there. Then simply snip off 1-inch pieces into the boiling liquid. Not rolling boil, mind you, but definitely boiling liquid until basically there's just, nothing left in the bag. Place on the cover and cook for 8 to 10 minutes. During that time, you can prep up another bowl with some more of that delicious chicken, and look at that. Nice, big, pillowy dumplings. Good for eating, not so good for hitting, which is okay by me. There. And of course, as before, pepper. Lots of luscious black pepper. There. And so, our tale of 2 dumplings and chicken reaches a peaceful conclusion with the drop dumplings of my mother and the flat, slick dumplings of my mother-in-law coexisting peacefully side by side on the same table. Despite conflicting origins in North, South, England, Germany, France, and hostile histories, we see that here in America, food has the power to bring harmony to discord, healing where there was hatred. There's a lesson in that for all of us. While we're on the subject, listen, Mom, I was thinking we'd come to your house for Thanksgiving dinner, okay? And then you can come over to ours for Christmas breakfast, and then everybody will be happy, right? Yeah? Of course not. See you next time on Good Eats. Oh,